They said Burkina Faso is too small to matter, too weak to lead, too poor to rise. But they forgot something. Every earthquake starts with a tiny crack. No press conferences, no aid. Banners, just the sound of shovels hitting dry ground, the fire in people's eyes refusing to go hungry again, and a nation barehanded digging the longest canal in West Africa. A project no one believed in. No loans from the IMF, no grants from USAID, no Chinese contractors, just the will of the people, just Traore. And now the world is watching. If you believe Africa is rising, if you believe we don't need to beg anymore, we can build it ourselves. Then stay with us, because this is not just a story. This is the moment that will make you proud to be black. On June 30th, 2025, the headlines hit across Burkina Faso's top news outlets, AIB, LFASO, Net, even Africa News picked it up. The first phase of the Bama Canal was done. Over 130 hectares of farmland were now irrigated. Every engineer, every brick, every tool, 100% local, no IMF loans, no foreign contractors, no strings attached. President Traore called it a strategic weapon to free our people from food dependency. But here's the twist. It wasn't the numbers that shocked the world. It was how he did it. No handouts, no waiting rooms in Paris or Washington. To understand why this shook the entire continent, you need to see the war Burkina Faso had been fighting long before the world paid attention. Burkina Faso was never starving for food. It was starving for control. You see, hunger isn't just about empty stomachs. It's about power. About who decides if your children eat or go to bed with nothing for years. Burkina Faso depended on foreign food aid. Imported rice, donated flour, trucks with other nations' flags. Every bag of food came with a silent message. You can't survive without us. But Captain Ibrahim Traore saw that the real enemy wasn't drought or sand or heat. It was dependency. He stood up and said, a nation that can't feed itself will never be free. And with that, he declared war, not with guns, with water. Traore didn't call for international summits. He didn't beg for climate grants or development packages. Instead, he pointed to the one thing the country already had. Land. Fertile land. Waiting. Dry. But full of promise. The only thing missing was water. But Traore didn't want to build another dusty government project. He wanted to launch a revolution. His plan to dig the longest irrigation canal in West Africa. With zero help from the West. No IMF, no USAID, no Chinese contractors, no French engineers, just Burkinab hands, just Burkinab sweat, just Burkinab pride. It sounded impossible. Previous leaders said it couldn't be done without billions in loans. Experts said it would take 10 years minimum. Traore said, do it in 8 months. He didn't ask if they were ready. He told them they already were, and the people listened. Before dawn, shovels hit the ground. Cement mixers spun through the night. Welders worked under floodlights. Women brought food to the workers. Farmers offered their land, their labor, their loyalty. It didn't matter that most had never built anything like this. What mattered was that for once they weren't being told what to do by someone in a suit from Paris. They were building it for themselves, for their children. No outsiders, no saviors, no middlemen. The blueprint was simple. Start from the Gore Dam. Stretch the canal through the Bama Plains. Bring water to the most forgotten lands in the country. Why Bama? Because Bama had been promised help for decades and got nothing. It was dry, desperate, abandoned. A symbol of every broken political promise. That's why Traore chose it. If we can bring life to Bama, he said, we can bring it anywhere. This wasn't just about crops. This was about dignity, and the people felt it. They didn't feel like victims anymore. They felt like warriors online. Comments started pouring in from across Africa and the diaspora. This is not aid. This is resurrection. He's the lion Africa has waited for. Traore is not just building a canal. He's building history. And then something unexpected happened. People started coming back. Those who had fled the land during years of drought returned, not to beg, not to watch, but to work. Elders who once abandoned the fields now stood beside their grandchildren, planting again. Young men who dreamed of escaping to Europe stayed to become machine operators and solar Pump technicians. A new generation raised in scarcity was finally being given something priceless. A chance to believe all of this, every drop of sweat, every meter of concrete wasn't funded by aid. It was funded by belief. And while the world wasn't paying attention, Burkina Faso had quietly lit a match. Now the fire is spreading. Because when you free people from dependency, you don't just give them food, you give them back their voice, their pride, their power. And that is how the revolution truly begins. They called it madness. Foreign analysts said, impossible without outside funding. Old politicians whispered, let the West handle it. But while they talked, Traore acted. He didn't ask for meetings. He didn't wait for signatures. He just started digging. And what happened next stunned even the loudest skeptics. Because what began as a ditch turned into the most ambitious agricultural revival Africa has seen in decades. The canal from the Gur Dam now stretches deep into the Bama plains. Land once cracked, dry, forgotten, now green. In the first few weeks, over 130 hectares were brought back to life. Fields that hadn't seen rain in years now shimmered with rice shoots. Vegetable gardens sprouted beside solar-powered pumps. Cattle drank from clear irrigation pools. And with every drop of water, hope returned. But it wasn't just the land that changed. Markets reopened. Villages repopulate. Prices dropped. Life came back. Incomes rose as people stopped buying expensive imported rice. Instead, they bought from their neighbors. Food wasn't just cheaper. It was fresh, local, and abundant. This wasn't charity. This was strategy. Here's what made it different. The canal wasn't just a pipe dream. It was a system. Water pumps powered by solar energy. Smart valves regulating pressure. Soil sensors tracking crop health. AI tech to optimize irrigation. Yes, AI in Burkina Faso. While the world thought this was just another rural project, Traore was creating a modern agricultural grid run by the people, for the people. And it wasn't just about rice. This system is designed for self-sufficiency. No more buying food from overseas. No more panic every time global prices spike. Burkina Faso would feed itself on its own terms. The government announced, from now on, food security is national security. Economists who once dismissed farming are now tracking harvest cycles. Ministers who once chased loans are now chasing rainfall maps. Agriculture has become the backbone of freedom. Across Bama, women's cooperatives once pushed to the driest lands now cultivate fertile fields with steady water. Children eat better. Mothers earn more. Communities grow stronger. The canal didn't just irrigate the land. It watered trust. And the effects are spreading. New warehouses are going up to store surplus crops. Roads are being built so trucks can reach every farm. Water distribution centers are placed where they're needed most, not where politicians want photo ops. Everything is planned with one question. What helps? The people first, not what pleases. Donors, not what fits a foreign report. Meanwhile, nearby countries are starting to notice. Delegations from Niger, Mali, even Nigeria have visited Bama. They see the canal. They see the harvests. And they ask the same thing. How did you do this? Without loans? The answer. We used something stronger than money. We used our own people. This isn't just infrastructure. It's a quiet rebellion. A challenge to the systems that kept Africa hungry for decades. A rejection of the belief that only the West can save us. And that's why it matters. Because with every hectare watered, Burkina Faso is planting more than rice. It's planting a new future. They thought the miracle ended when the water started flowing. But they were wrong. The real story begins after the soil got wet, because what President Traore built in Bama wasn't just a canal. It was a classroom, a training ground, a test. And the students not in uniforms, not behind desks, but in boots and overalls, holding shovels and solar panels, building their country with their own hands. Here's the twist. This wasn't just about food. It was about people. Burkina Faso didn't just need water. It needed builders. So, Traore made a bold move. He turned the Bama Canal into a national boot camp for engineers, welders, machine operators, and entrepreneurs. No fancy universities, no scholarships. To Europe, no foreign consultants, just real work, real tools, and real results. Young men who used to beg for day jobs in the capital are now team leaders, managing construction crews. Women who had never touched a machine are now running solar P-powered irrigation systems and handling logistics. And these aren't temporary jobs. They're careers. They're proof that development doesn't have to be imported. It can be grown at home inside the Canal Zone. Everything runs like a military operation. Schedules are tight. Deadlines are sacred. Everyone knows the mission: 8 months. No delays, no excuses. And with each passing day, the impossible becomes routine. Floodlights light up the night as concrete dries. Under moonlight, generators hum. Trucks move like clockwork. This is not a sleepy government project. It's a national movement. But what really shocked the world? No outside help, no World Bank advisors, no used paperwork, no delays from European experts. Instead, Burkina engineers designed the blueprint. Local factories made the steel. Local cooperatives delivered the bricks. Even the transport contracts went to domestic trucking companies. In other words, the money stayed home. For the first time, the billions usually siphoned off to Paris, Beijing, or Washington circulated inside Burkina Faso, and the ripple effects. Unbelievable. A young welder at the site now earns enough to send money back to his village. A 19-year-old girl from Dougou is training to become a water technician. Mothers now dream of their daughters being engineers, not housemaids. This canal became more than cement and water. It became a mirror. And for the first time, people looked in and said, I can do this. My children can do this. We don't need to wait anymore. Online, the diaspora is watching. From Chicago to Kingston, Nairobi to London, Black voices are rising. This is what real freedom looks like. He's not asking for permission. He's building the future. Africa doesn't need saviors. Africa needs believers. And believe they do. More than 2,000 direct jobs, countless indirect ones. And now, new vocational schools near the Canal site are training more courses in solar energy, workshops in agricultural tech, business training for farming. Cooperatives. These are not handouts. They're investments in a self-sustaining economy. Before this, young people left villages to search for work in crowded cities or, worse, risked their lives crossing borders. Now they're staying. Not because they're stuck, but because for the first time they see a future worth staying for. This is how you stop brain drain. This is how you build nations. One job at a time, one canal at a time, one young dreamer at a time. Everyone thought this was just about water. But here's the truth. The Bama Canal wasn't just a construction project. It was a hidden school, an unmarked academy, a training camp for a new kind of army. The nation builders. Not trained in Paris or Washington, but right there in the mud, under the sun, with tools in hand and purpose in their eyes. This was Traore's real plan all along. A 23-year-old welder who once begged for jobs now leads his own crew. A young woman who grew up on dry land is now a solar pump technician. They're not just earning wages, they're earning confidence. They're becoming architects of their country's rebirth. And it's not theory. It's happening now. Traore understood something that most leaders miss. You can't just build roads and canals. You have to build the people who build them. So what did he do? He launched rapid training programs right at the work site. How to maintain solar-powered pumps. How to manage water pressure systems. How to run a farming cooperative. How to start your own business. No fancy degrees. No international exams. Just practical, hands-on learning taught by those doing it. And here's the twist. The same people once seen as poor, unskilled, dependent are now running the show. No one is flying in to save them. They're saving themselves. The canal created over 2,000 direct jobs, plus thousands more in supply chains, transport, farming, and logistics. The money doesn't leave the country. It circulates inside it. That's not a project. That's a new economy. And something deeper is happening. Something You can't measure in tons of rice or meters of cement. Pride. Real, raw, unshakable pride. One young worker said it best. We're not weak. We just never had a chance to be trusted. Now they do. And they're rising to meet it. This is how loyalty is built. Not through speeches, but through paychecks, purpose, and results. Across the site, you don't hear complaining. You hear planning, dreaming, building. A welder tells his story not with data, but with joy. A single mother now trains others to run irrigation systems. A village elder tears up watching his grandkids plant in soil he thought was dead forever. This isn't just a project. It's redemption. And this is only the beginning. Vocational schools are popping up. Short-term courses are teaching real skills fast. Youth once rushing to cities or foreign borders are now staying because they see it. A future worth fighting for. A nation that finally believes in its people. They used to say it would take centuries to change a country. But in Burkina Faso, it took one Canal, one leader who believed in a people who refused to beg. Again. From the first drop of water in Bama, something began to rise. Crops, yes. Jobs, yes. But deeper than that, dignity. This wasn't just about eating. It was about standing tall, about knowing your worth, about looking your child in the eye and saying, you were born free. No more loans. No more foreign hands pulling the strings. No more silence. Just sweat, vision, and pride built by the people, for the people. And now here's the question. If a small, landlocked country with no nuclear weapons can break the chains of dependency, what's stopping the rest of Africa? Agree, disagree. Let's talk in the comments. And if this moved you, if this made you feel proud to be Black, African, or just human, then share this story. Subscribe to Bright Africa because this is only the beginning. Africa's not asking anymore. We're building together.